All right, good evening. Thanks for joining us on our December 8th conversation with the community. A couple things we wanted to share and then just really open it up to you for any thoughts, feedback, questions, all of it. First thing is we are in open enrollment for next year, which means that for any prospective students that who will be in TK through 8th grade next year and they'd like to join and have enroll at Allegiance, then that window is open now. So you would just go to our website and click the admissions link and it'll walk you through. Obviously, if you're here, you're a parent at Allegiance, it doesn't necessarily pertain to you, but it might, if you know somebody who wants to attend the school, or if you have a sibling that is of a currently enrolled student, you will need to go through the admissions open enrollment process. So just go to our website, asathrive.org, find the admissions link, pretty intuitive, and that'll get you where you want to go. I remind everyone, just because we're projected to grow by 90 students next year, obviously we'll lose our 8th graders, will matriculate and move on to high school, but we'll have 90 more students. We're projected to have 90 more students than we currently have. We currently have 810. We're supposed to go to 900 next year. There are a couple sort of questions we have, given the uncertainty of the budget and everything like that, which might impact our growth for next year. So just on that note, do kind of keep up with us if we're growing or not. Again, everybody on this call I know is obviously a parent of an enrolled kid, so a lot of this doesn't pertain to you. But if you know someone who would like to attend Allegiance, let them know that open enrollment is happening right now. Or if you are someone with another child who'd like to get in, we do want you to complete that so that you're in the lottery. At this point, all grade levels will have, except TK at this point, will have a lottery. I say that because all of those grade levels have applicants, more interested kids than spots, right? In the school, so that means we'll have a lottery. For TK, we're under the number right now, so it's normal, but things didn't change and all of our TK applicants just automatically get in. So that's the first item that I wanted to share. And thank you. Please do. Okay, just some hellos in the chat box. Please do use it for questions, thoughts. The 3 other things I wanted to talk about were the governor's stay-home order, our current small cohorts in-person learning model. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. I did send some information out recently about that, so I just want to make sure you're accurate information on it. And then, the waiver that we applied for, and that one's pretty direct. We applied for it on November 6th. We recently learned that it was not approved. The waiver would have allowed us to open in a hybrid model with TK through 6th graders. The waiver does not apply to 7th and 8th graders, so that's why I said TK through 6th grade. And we were informed that it did not get approved. The reason was the current case rate, or the case rate at the time of when our application was reviewed. The case rate is the confirmed positive cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 people. And so for us at the time, it was in almost 30 per 100,000. The original language of the waiver shared that don't even 9 for 1 if the case rate is 14 per 100,000. We applied because we saw that they were getting approved. And as you know, if you paid attention to that, we didn't want to take any options off the table for our kids. But with the case rates being where they were, we were told that it would not be approved at this time. So what happens next with the waiver, we don't necessarily resubmit it. It automatically gets looked at in comparison to the case rate. So that's the main driver of the waiver, is the number of positive cases, not hospitalizations, not death, not anything like that, but just positive cases per 100,000. So that's where we are with the waiver. It's not approved at this time. If that changes, then we'll be informed. So we don't necessarily need to reapply. It's automatically resubmitted now that it's in the. So I'm regardless, though, I've made the decision to follow up with the county to kind of see what our options are or what's available to us, and not just be at the mercy of when they look at it. So they understand we're very interested in utilizing the waiver, and so I'm reaching out to them just to kind of check in and remind them that we're here and wanting to move forward with it. So that's the update on that. So I'll jump back to the stay-home order. Because there's been a lot of talk about it, of course, and bottom line is the governor's stay-home order does not affect so for our staff, nothing changes. We've been encouraging our staff, if they would like to work from home, they're able to, unless we need them at school because of their responsibilities. So nothing in the stay-home order changed that. So our staff continues to have the option, if they're able to work from home, they can. If we need them at school, they're at school. And so stay-home order, again, I don't know if you all got it, but today we got almost like an Amber Alert on our phone into it. So again, just so you know, it doesn't change with us. For those of you who are parents in our small cohorts, which I'll talk about in a moment, then you'll know that this is important to you because the program is not being affected by the stay-home order. So the only thing we have made, and this was a change that we made, and that was prior to the stay-home order, was we kind of just was looking at the health safety guidelines and just sort of our processes and at campus, and we realized we needed to tighten up a little bit in the office. It's busy there. There's a lot of work, surprisingly. When we're in distance learning, there's still a lot of work that has to get done. And so we just made a slight change for you, for our visitors. The office is open for visitors by appointment only. It used to be walk-in, but based on all given all the things that we're required to do, temperature checks, all of those things, it just made it easier for us to manage our day-to-day work and also just ask for appointments. And that's been smoother in making in the front office. So thanks for that. That's been the only update on that. So I'll talk a little bit about the small cohorts in-person learning that's taking place. So in August, the Department of Public Health issued guidance for small cohorts. So small cohorts are no more than 16 individuals. That includes staff and kids that can be on campus for in-person learning and have to stay together. The cohort cannot be larger than that. And again, 16 individuals, it could be one adult, 15 students, it could be 2 adults, 14 students. The different ways you can make 16, right? But that's the capacity of a cohort. That cohort then can be on campus, can be in a classroom, and cannot interact with other cohorts. Much of our hybrid plan was designed around this idea that small cohorts do not mix. They stay isolated to one another. As I shared this, and whether it was one-on-one with parents or just in kind of settings like this, it's very restrictive. There's zones on campus where kids can go and when they can go there, and water fountains they can use and bathrooms they can use, and it's really restrictive, right? But it's what allows us to bring our kids back to campus. So we use the guidance, the language in the guidance in small cohorts didn't specify which students we could bring to campus in small cohorts, but it did say that we need to prioritize students with disabilities. So that's what we've done. We've already brought some students back in our special day class, our think tank class, and they've been coming to school in very similar to a hybrid model using the small cohorts guidance. Today we expanded that to 11 more students, and that are not in the special day class and not in the think tank class, but do receive special education services. We expanded that and created a second cohort. Again, the cohorts still are no more than 16 people. That includes staff and students, and the 2 cohorts do not interact with one another. So they arrive at the same time, but they're separated, and they're on campus, and in their spaces that allow us to, have them not mix. And again, the reason for that is if there's a positive case within a cohort, whether it's a student, whether it's a staff member, then it's that cohort that gets shut down, not the other one. And if you're allowing for mixing, whether it's recess or that and the other, one positive case in one of the cohorts means we'd have to shut everything down, and we don't want to do that. So we need the cohorts, to be doing what they're doing now, which is staying within their cohort. So that's underway. We've expanded it from 5 kids to 17. I do my math. Yes, it actually, I said 11, but there's a 12th student. So that's tripled in size, and we are looking to bring more kids back. The way the small cohorts guidance works, it doesn't allow us to open the entire school. We don't have the space, and we don't have the staff to create cohorts of 16 individuals. But we are currently looking at expanding our cohorts, and we are, looking at our needs relative to one another. I mean, and desire to go back is something that's a factor, but the safety of a student, which we've dealt with, is a priority over somebody's preference. So right now we prioritize our students with disabilities, and we're looking to expand that. We are looking at a group of students whose social emotional health is on our radar, their safety and so on, and those are taking precedent over other students who you can make a strong case should be at school too. So the goal here is to expand, continue to bring kids back safe, following the health and safety guidelines to the greatest extent that we can. So kind of stay tuned for more of that, but it is a process that does take a little bit of time, especially given the times we're in, where you're seeing the case rate kind of go up, and we have not been without that. So we have had positive cases amongst our staff. It's actually been of an uptick. What we have not had, based on our contact tracing, is any known transmissions at work. So when we've learned about a positive case with an employee, we've conducted contact tracing, and not once has that led us to believe that there's been transmission at work. What has happened on several occasions with staff members is that they were exposed, whether it's through family or elsewhere, and became positive, themselves. So the majority of the positive cases we've had on staff are employees that have not reported to work, and there's never been a risk of exposure at work because they hadn't been there. We've had a couple instances in which employees were at work, but not knowing that they were positive, either became symptomatic or learned that someone in the house, in their home, was positive, and so on, and then that kind of triggered that. But even in those instances, very few other colleagues have been what we would consider in close contact with them and had to be quarantined, which to me is the evidence that we are following the health and safety guidelines to show that we can run our school and follow these guidelines that allow us to not shut down the entire school if there's a positive case, which we've had positive staff cases. We know, and again, some of them have been at work, and when we conduct the contact tracing, there hasn't been, it's been very limited on who was possibly exposed, and none of the positive exposures to date have turned around and been positive, which is great. That's the good news you want in this ugly reality of positive cases. So we've only had one instance in which we've had to notify a family of a potential exposure, where one staff member was on campus for the specific purpose of working with a student, and in that case we learned of the employee being positive, and in that moment, because the purpose for the employee being on campus was to work with the student, naturally then the student was potentially exposed. Glad to say that the student was fine. This was weeks ago, so again, no transmissions that we're aware of have happened on campus from our known positive cases. So those are important things, as we kind of want to bring more students on and so on. We're kind of setting the procedures and protocols that are required of schools that are happening for us. This is not me saying, I guarantee we'll never have transmission at school. That would be irresponsible and reckless to say. But what I can assure is that, we're really good at following the procedures that help contain and, limit spread. So that is, what needs to be happening if we're going to be talking about bringing more kids on. and whether it's small cohorts or eventually if, guidance changes and so on. Yeah, just to clarify, when I said 17 students, we were initially with 5 students, and now we've brought on 12 more. So that has resulted, we have 2 different cohorts, neither of which is up to 16 individuals. So the cohorts are small, and they have room for a few more kids as we look at, kind of expanding that. So those are kind of the updates I wanted to share. And then I'll ask Ms. Lohoff if she's got anything for us. And then we just want to hear from you as far as questions or thoughts.
I don't, other than the exciting upcoming events that we have taking place next week.
Yeah.
So at this point, and remember, everything is subject to change, we are going to have our another drive-by. Teachers will be positioned in the front of the school only and from a distance where they will not be able to come up to the cars and stuff, but they would be able to wave to our students that we so long to see. At that point, when they drive by, it's an ugly sweater or pajama parade is what the PAC has called it. They're hosting it. And they have, of course, goodies for the kids. At the end of the parade, we also will have an area, since we are hosting a community project called Santa for Seniors. If you would like to make your donations, there will be a place you can drop them off, because that will be our last day for collecting that as well. We're looking forward to a healthy and a relaxing couple of weeks. I think everyone needs to be off their screens for a while. But in the meantime, also, just please know that we too are hoping 2020 is moving beyond us. And we are going to work very diligently to be able to see kiddos in the near future. So that's about all I have, Dr. Cartnetta.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing the upcoming events. So you heard me share a little bit about open enrollment for those, for whom that may apply. I talked a little bit about, where the waiver is, that it was not approved, and the reason we were given was the case rate. And that is the criteria that the County Department of Public Health uses. So our waiver application is automatically just resubmitted. So I, just kind of follow up and how we look, and I don't know if it influences the decision or not, but it's something I'll keep pressing on, especially when other schools are able to be open under a waiver. And we have demonstrated that, we have sound health and safety guidance in place, or requirements in place. So share a little bit about that. I hopefully clarified what the stay-home order, the recent stay-home order from Governor Newsom means and doesn't mean. Again, no implications for schools. So I'm glad that's the case, because, we're demonstrating that we can have our kids on campus with the precautions in place. And so we should be able to expand that. And that's what we've decided to do. So that's why today we were able to bring more kids using our the small cohorts guidance. We look to expand that. And so what I want the community to understand is, and I said this earlier, but it's important, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the staff, we don't have the space to use a small cohort guidance to bring everybody back. That's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to prioritize the most intensive needs, and we're not given the criteria for that. What we're told is prioritize students with disabilities. That's what we've done. We've started with our more intensive service receiving students, and then from there. So now what we're doing is kind of looking at where are our greatest needs that allow us to better understand who, we have 500 kids who would return to campus, but we can, using the small cohort guidance, we can bring back 100. And I'm making numbers up, right? But then 500 kids will not be coming back in small cohorts. The 100 that we've identified as having the most intensive needs are going to be the first ones that are able to come back. It's not a perfect system. It's merely us looking at our academic, our mental health, our engagement, our academic progress, right? I think I just said that twice. Looking at all those things together and determining who and safety of our students, and kind of determining, where the priorities are from there. So just have to be upfront about that, because I personally, as a parent, want my kids back, and I'm knowing where they are. They're not on this priority list right now. So that's my preference, is that my children come back to campus. That won't be happening using the small cohorts, because we have students with relatively greater needs who need to take up those few spots. And that's just how the process has to work. On the hope side of it, which is something I don't often share, is I am hoping guidance changes, and we see, as we continue to learn about transmissions among kids and so on, that hopefully we start to see, policy and guidance shape to match what we're better able to do with kids and bring more of them back. Time will tell. So it is important that, this is an important one. So we are sound in our practices in class. We've got distancing, we've got frequent hand washing, cleaning of areas, face covering, and so what we rely heavily on, though, is what happens away from school, and we can't control that. So I won't be monitoring people's social media to see who's gathering and indoors and not. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do it, but I will ask, just for families to consider, once we're able to get more kids back, actions away from school and the possible risk that brings to school. I understand there's tons of opinions. I hold my own, but simply put, like I want to open the school, and I know more than ever this means all of our behaviors, right, are going to have a say in what that looks like. All of our behaviors will dictate, whether we can keep things open or not. So, asking you to just consider that, and also knowing that totally respect that people are free to live their lives. And so just knowing, though, that your staff is willing, staff and families want to be in school, it's just a consideration on what we do away from campus too. And that goes for our staff too, absolutely. So these are just the things we want to share, and then just kind of open it up for some questions and thoughts. So I ask you, do please use the chat box so we can just kind of call on you and then hear from you, because we'd love to hear what's on your mind. Who's got one for us?
We've got a very quiet chat box.
This is what December does normally to us.
I know, right?
On fumes, getting to that holiday. Tired with as much as we love the holiday season, we also know it can weigh on us. Who's got it for us? There's no way. That's it. Take it away, Jean. Go ahead, and if you want to unmute yourself, please do.
Mute yourself. Okay, hi. I have a question. So, I was able to take off some time from work in order to do distance learning, but in January I have to return to work, and I was hoping that the school would be open partially in January, but now that we know that it won't be open, do you guys have any options? Like, I know some schools, they have like a community of parents who are kind of like working together with other parents in groups of 2 or 3, and kind of sharing like distance learning in pods. I don't know what the options are, but I know that I have to go back to work, and I don't have any childcare options except for like if I do a kinder care, and that's like about $800 a month.
Yeah. No, and that's been something we've looked at too, and we don't have an answer for you yet. Quite honestly, like, we struggle to staff a daycare, kind of like a daycare. So it's been something we haven't been able, we've talked about and looked at. That's been one of the major challenges, is just being able to staff these things. It's hard to see, because it's hard for Ms. Lohoff and I to see where our employees, because of this model. But when we look at where everybody's working and what they're responsible for, they're all working. There aren't people available in our staff to now be reassigned to something like that. That's been our challenge. To do that. But we just know we'll keep looking at it, and that's just a solution.
You have a question from Julie, and actually, she's asking, did she hear that we will use social media to see if people are going out? Yes, you had kids talking, so Julie, no, that is one thing we absolutely will not be doing, is tracking people through social media.
No, it's
rest assured. The next question is from Mona. And she says, why aren't the 7th and 8th graders allowed back when the waiver is approved? Do you have more insight on that, Dr. Cognetta?
Yeah, so the waiver is granted by the Department of Public Health. So the California Department of Public Health came up with a waiver process and the criteria for it, and who it pertains to, and that's TK through 6th grade. It does not pertain to 7th grade through 12th grade. So it's not us deciding we will use the waiver for up to 6th grade. It's the way that the Department of Public Health, who has jurisdiction over this, who approve or don't approve them, they came up with the scope of the grade levels for the waiver. So then, simply put, the 7th and 8th graders, the waivers doesn't pertain to 7th and 8th graders. No, and my understanding was that when the waiver whole process was kind of developed, the understanding that was applied was that transmission with young kids is very different than with teens and so on. So that's why there was a cutoff at one point from 7th grade on up.
Makes sense.
Hope that helps. And yeah, and I want to reiterate, to answer Julie's question, you definitely have kids talking, because I will absolutely not be monitoring anyone's social media about how they're behaving away from school. I'm just asking families to consider, if we're able to get kids back in school, what that looks like. That's my only ask. Not me ever on your social media. I think that our board member Jason said it well at a recent board meeting, and I fully concur. To me, social media is nothing more than a toilet. I'm happy being miles away from it. I won't be going anywhere near it. What else is on your mind, guys?
Are we able to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is too much to write. And now, yesterday I was watching, I know the news is not the best thing to do, but it was a local channel. Wasn't one of those crazies. Anyway, they mentioned that a lot of children around the United States, they are struggling, especially in math, because it's so hard to comprehend and to understand a lot of the math problems. I don't know if our school is having the issue, but I know here at home it's tough. And if that's the case, I know I did reach out to Mrs. Lohoff and she did respond, but like, what else do we have for the kids? Or is it even an issue at our school?
Yeah, well, I think in comparison to having those same kids who we know do better in campus, it's definitely an issue, right? This is a different model.
Yes.
I guarantee, in the aggregate, our school's academic learning as a whole would be further along if we weren't in distance learning as a whole, right? And I know it means very different things for different kids, which is why we're using the small cohort guidance to bring kids back. There aren't many examples from mid-March till today, at mid-March, on what to do when you have to change your school overnight into one that's in distance learning. But now there's a little bit of evidence, of what's working and what's not. A lot of schools made the decision in the spring to not teach any new information, just close and just review. for the rest of the year. We didn't make that decision. We decided we slowed things down, but we kept teaching. We kept on our pacing and scope and sequence of what we were going to teach next, whether it was math or history or whatever the content area may be. We kept on teaching what was next. So while the pacing of it was definitely hit by distance learning, we didn't just stop and review. And then we picked up this year and we started with our grade level content standards, and we're teaching, moving kids along. That, as opposed to stopping and reviewing, has been showing to be far more beneficial for kids. Than stop just reviewing because we're in distance learning. Those kids, unfortunately, were not getting any new content. Good review is helpful, right? You can catch up on things you weren't so sure of, but you're not learning much, as far as new information. So we didn't do that. We kept learning, and that's been demonstrated to be more effective for kids. So in that sense, I know when I talk to other school leaders and who didn't make this decision and those who did, when we look at our assessments, we see that there's areas we want kids to do better in, but there are also plenty of evidence that our kids are learning too. I know I don't think as a whole we're learning at the same rate we would if we were in person, but to just put a blanket statement that we're struggling, no, kids are progressing, just not at the same rate as we would in person. So I think, Mona, your question is really, as I say that's from the bird's eye view of the whole school. We need to zoom in, like I already mentioned, we know plenty of kids would be doing better in person, and so that's why we're taking steps to change that up for them. So I think your conversation with a follow-up conversation with Ms. Lohoff is a good one, Mona, to kind of figure out a specific plan, right, in your situation. That's what it'll take. What can we do specifically for your kiddo?
Okay.
Yes, Mona, please. I would love to put my head together with you and see if we can find other alternatives, of course, for our kiddos. I would like, if I can, please, to add something. In view of the delayed report cards, I have personally had the opportunity to sit with each and every teacher and discuss each and every student over the last couple of weeks. And I have to say to everyone that's here this evening, I am so impressed with the staff. I mean, I've done this position, been in this position for several years now, and the conversations that I had with teachers over the last 10 days as we discussed each and every student in their classroom, I am absolutely amazed at how well they have managed to get to know your children through distance learning. What we were concerned with in the beginning, as far as making connections and teachers really connecting with the kids and knowing where they're at and how they're doing, has been phenomenal. And we are not in the same place as many of these other schools. And hats off to our staff, because the conversations that were held and how the teachers understand students are learning, we do understand those challenges, and there are a great many of them. But overall, the kids at our school, because of the direction and the path we chose to move on, as far as moving forward with the standards like Dr. Cognetta stated and everything else, the kids are in the best hands possible. I am convinced of it. And so, again, Mona, reach out to me and let's engage in a bigger conversation. I'd love to meet with you on Google, and let's throw some things around. And in the meantime, though, I would like to add just an air of confidence to all of you that these teachers have done remarkable work getting to know your kids.
Yeah, thank you to all.
And to build on that, is I've been paying attention now that we have some time in this, just to kind of put, hopefully, would put you at ease on just what you're a part of. So there have been studies now conducted on like the efficacy, the quality of programs, since spring across the country. And California specifically, the contrast with charter schools and traditional schools, it couldn't be any wider.
Right.
This is just on average. Charter schools moved into distance learning 6 times faster than the average traditional public school. 6 times faster. We did it overnight. Other charter schools took 2-3 weeks, but that average works out to be 6 times faster than your traditional school district. And that doesn't even get to the quality of what happened once you moved into distance learning. Again, some of those schools in traditional schools, once they actually got their act together and opened up, still didn't teach anything new. They just now started reviewing, right? And so, just to kind of give you a perspective, and then I don't mean to, I don't mean to knock, hardworking traditional public educators. My criticism is of our systemic issues. Our teachers work super hard. I know plenty of teachers, principals, directors, and traditional school districts who work just as hard. But we're in a system that can transform itself overnight and do the best we can given the circumstances. A lot of those, our colleagues in different systems, they just can't. There's other obstacles that don't allow for a school district to transform itself overnight into distance learning. So yeah, that's a kudos to our team for sure, but we're also organized in a way that just allows us to be more flexible. And unfortunately, a lot of schools are not, and so they have to do it. And that results in taking 6 times as long to transition from offline to distance learning. I because charter schools continue to be attacked in the state. I'm a little bit more abrasive in how I'm talking about what we do in schools.
No, and real quick, I do not have a single issue about any teacher on campus at all. You guys are all fantastic. Our son would not be attending the school if not. I mean, we can't ask for a better school. That's not the issue. It's just, a lot of times the children in the morning, they're not, even at school, they have an issue with paying attention. But at home, there's so much other stuff going on. And then, it's not the same. And, a lot of personal things have changed and that doesn't help matters. But not everybody's going through the same thing. Just what I had said, I saw yesterday that a lot of children across the country are just struggling, especially with math, because it is not, I'm not saying, I don't know. I've never had to do online classes. We didn't even have computers back when I went to school, but I don't know what the disadvantage is to learning, versus in person to online.
Yeah, well, right, and definitely, Mona, I didn't take your comment as critical at all about our staff. I mean,
No.
As a parent, you're talking.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I just wanted to let you know that you guys are amazing.
Yeah, and I'm just taking every opportunity to say, hey, look, we're for all the
you're working your panties off.
Yeah, we've been on the right side of a lot of things, and as I shared recently with with our board that there are plenty of decisions looking back that I would take back and do differently, but there are also things that I stand behind, that we're definitely always kid first, was in the best interest of kids given the parameters and so on. But no, I totally hear you on that and so on. And I had another thought on that, but it slipped my mind. That's happening a lot these days.
Trying to call.
Quite forgetful. Oh, yeah, this is what I wanted to share. I think now that significant amount of time has passed, we're learning more and more about the implications of so much time away from school. And so we know we're not just dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with learning loss. We're dealing with mental health. We're learning with a lot more physical, the physical health of our kids who are now staring at screens, sedentary, they're sitting for prolonged periods of time. We're learning all of these things that are also need to be addressed once we're able to kind of get ourselves back to some degree of what life needs to look like. We started the conversation on what it looks like when we get our kids back, because we know there's going to be a lot of, we don't just pick up off, kids who've been away from school for coming on 10 months. That's not something you just flip a switch and, things are just back to normal. There will be, a lot of work to to get them to really benefit from being back in school. So, you know, we'll be able to kind of talk more about that as we inch closer to those days. So, but just know that, you know,
Mama, see mommy.
yeah. Oh, that's what I'm here. What else is on your mind, guys?
Crickets.
Crickets.
Yeah. Either you really don't have any more questions, or hopefully we're answering them the right way.
Cool. Well, good. Always a pleasure to connect with you guys. This will be recorded for anyone who missed it and needed to hear some things. But again, you know, tonight we just wanted to share about open enrollment for those who are interested in or know of others who are interested in joining us next year, and clarifying the stay-home order. Bottom line, has nothing to do with us. Small cohort in-person learning. Glad that we've been able to grow that, and we'll continue to look to kind of do that in a way that works for our kids and our community. Yeah, the update on the waiver that it was not approved based on the case rate and will be automatically resubmitted. And those were the sort of the big talking points that we had. Hopefully we were able to do. Yeah. You know, hopefully that gives you some clarity on anything that's on your mind and so on. So there are no last questions, and we'll wrap it up from here. Check in the chat box, check in the chat box. Cool. Well, all right, then. Thank you so much for joining us, and you have a pleasant evening, and hopefully we get to chat again before the holidays. If not, happy holidays, happy new year. We'll see you guys soon.
Everybody stay safe and healthy. And Margarita, this last Friday is the last day for grab and go lunches.
Hi, Lyric. Good to see you. Congratulations on your Mandarin competition win.
I know, how awesome.
Well deserved.
Hi, Harmony. Nice to see you.
Hi, Miss Margarita.
All right, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Hi, Erin. Hi, Amber. Nice to see you guys.
Hi. Hi.
Say hi to everyone for me, please.
We will.
Miss you guys. Love you.
Love you too, Margarita.
Here, I'll give you a quick snap of the picture of the baby Margarita.
Hey.
Yeah, well,
Oh, I love them. Sorry, I need to say hi to my kids.
Just say hi. Say
Hi.
hi.
We're going to ice skating for practice recital. Yeah, I've been there.
Just say hi. Say Merry Christmas.
Bye, guys.
Merry